connecting you to our community. 11 Connects. Welcome to 11 Connects. I'm your host, Jen Lennon. Today I'm joined by Dorothy Sylvanik. She is the owner of Home Care Assistance. Dorothy, welcome back.
Thanks for having us this morning, Jen.
Well, Dorothy, you have great advice for us always, which is very helpful because I know sometimes when we're dealing with an aging parent or even a sibling who's aging, we're not quite sure what we're looking for. So help us to know what we might be seeing that might be an indicator that that person needs some help and how we can categorize that even.
Certainly. Well, I think there's two components to independence. One is physical, and the second is cognitive. So many of the things you see will either be in one category or the other, or possibly overlapping.
Okay.
Some physical signs that someone is struggling with independence are falling. Falling is just...
That's a real obvious one.
It's a real obvious one.
But I think what's interesting is you said there's some things connected to the fear of falling that we might not recognize.
So for example, someone may not shower because they're afraid of falling in the bath. So you may see some hygiene issues.
Okay.
Or you may see that they're not cooking meals because they're concerned about standing at the stove for so long or afraid of falling in the kitchen.
Okay.
You could also see that the house is not so clean. Perhaps changing the sheets on the bed is too physically difficult, and so you end up with soiled linens or the laundry not getting done. Those are all signs that someone may be challenged physically.
Yeah, and I guess you would think, oh, well, you know, grandma's just perhaps fallen behind in hygiene, but it could be this other issue
That's
that they
correct.
can't maybe manipulate with their hands or they're afraid of falling or something like that. Okay, so those would be signs to look for physically. Anything else physically that we should notice?
There's some overlap with some of the cognitive issues.
Okay.
A couple of those are medication management.
Okay.
Many seniors take even up to a dozen medications at different times of the day, some with food, some without, and it's very easy to make mistakes with that medication management. Another sign cognitively is decision making. We worked with a wonderful woman who had 7 years of mail stacked in her house, and it was because she couldn't make a decision. Is it junk mail? Is this a bill I need to pay? What do I do with the mail?
So you might think, oh, she's got a hoarding problem, but it really was a decision-making problem.
It was a decision-making problem, exactly.
Okay.
Perhaps the most difficult cognitive sign of challenge with independence is driving. You may see that someone says, I no longer drive on the interstate, or I only drive in my neighborhood, I only take back roads. And that's a sign that they may not be processing as quickly as they need to keep up with the speeds on the interstate or to find their way around when they're driving.
And we might think, oh, that means that, you know, my dad's being safe because he's only driving in the neighborhood, but investigate that a little more because
that's correct. It could have another
reason.
Yes.
And that one I know is difficult because giving up that driver's license, that feels like a huge step backwards in independence.
It is perhaps the toughest one of all. We often find that it is not necessarily the act of driving, but the ability to get where they want to go at the time they want to go.
Got it. So feeling that they have that independence.
Yes.
So these are not easy conversations to start. What's the best way? What do we need to say to get the conversation going?
We always recommend that you bring this up in a non-defensive way. It's better to say, I see that the laundry hasn't been done than, Mom, you haven't done the laundry.
The house is a mess.
Exactly.
Yeah, because then it just gets emotionally charged.
It just gets emotional and people get defensive. So it's better to just state it factually without the emotion and from your perspective, rather than saying the senior's done something wrong.
And knowing that there might be this greater physical or cognitive issue behind it. So if folks have questions, I know you're always happy to help guide them through this process, right?
Yes, we can do a phone call consultation or actually go out to someone's home and sit down and talk. We're happy to talk to the adult children to discuss what the situation is or the concerns are before meeting the parents.
And then if you find the problem, you can always provide some people to maybe come in and help with laundry or something like that. That's the whole idea.
We find that bridges the gap and helps the senior maintain their independence in a really positive way.
Well, great information today. Thank you so much. Thanks for joining me. I'm your host, Jen Lennon, keeping you connected.